Hello, welcome. You're here, ready to go. Weekend streams. Yes, welcome. So we're gonna do a special stream day. I'm gonna do a Saturday afternoon for me, a Saturday evening for some of you, Saturday afternoon other places as well. So thank you for joining me on a Saturday. I'm excited to be here. Be part of your weekend. What's going on, Vichar? Bin Vichar, how are you? Thanks for tuning in from India. How's it going, Arthur? Thanks for coming in. So I wanted to do something a little fun today for me. As a kid of the 80s kid, which I'm a massive 80s fan, if I could be playing 80s music right now, I would be doing it. So I would have a lot of fun doing that for sure. But I can't. But there's something that in the 80s that really stuck with me, myself, that was kind of also what got me into even a little bit of the art in the world of stuff, and that's my Gremlins, right? So I'm going to kind of show you guys the process of me making a Gremlin from scratch, okay? Stefano, thanks for tuning in tonight. Mr. Mark Newman, man, thanks for coming in. All right, we've got a good group coming in today. Pressure's on. So just to give you an idea for me, for a little bit of a nut that I am for the Gremlins, I do have some original Gremlin stuff. So it's just for me that movie really resonated. I don't know why. I just really enjoyed it. It's one of the best Christmas movies of all time, people. And yes, it is a Christmas movie, just like Die Hard's a Christmas movie. So I actually have this Gremlin. I wish I could show you guys this Gremlin, but it's in my office at the Pixologic office. But this just gives you an idea of what such a dork that I am, that I have this original one. And I was starting to build like a case for it. It looked like it shipped to me. In like a crate. So I want to kind of go back to this because I think they're such a cool. They're an amazing design by Chris Wayless, was the main sculptor for the first one and the movie, and then of course Rick Baker did the second one. So I even have, visually again, I have Stripe from the original Gremlins, so a little cast of him. So this is cool to have just as a reference for me, for something to play, especially in all the detailing that was put into these and what Chris and the team did for the first one. And then I even have some face. This is when he's trying to shoot Gizmo, right? So yes, I'm a massive dork. Dorky, 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 right? Night Shadow. So you're asking about creating a tileable brush or an IMM brush. Yeah, I'm actually going to talk a little bit about that in this stream too. So I want to, first things first for me, I want to bring some reference images into ZBrush for me. Okay, so it's great that I have all these physical things, which I think is a really good way to have. So even if you're, if you are going to do something like this where you are going to make a Gremlin, it's even worth buying, there's a little 7-inch figure, and that's actually some images I'm going to use to bring in by Nika. It's only 7 inches. You can get them for whatever, $20, $25. It's good to just physically have that, of course. And then obviously there's going to be a lot of references. I see some Night Shadow already saying dragon scales, which is a perfect way of going about this. So number one, the first thing for me is I want to do is bring in some image referencing. So there is actually about 4 to 5 different ways to do this, and every artist is different on the way we all work. So I want to show you the one that I like to use when I'm going to do something like this. So that way you can kind of see where I'm going with this. And then I'm going to use a couple other things too. So I'm just going to dock this over here. All right. So this is the draw palette. Okay, that's on our left now. I opened up my tray by double tapping this icon right here. Okay. Hold on, I'm just reading the question by Yetkin. Hi, Paul. Totally irrelevant. About can you show how do you do drag and scale on the bottom of it bigger on an array mesh? Oh, so you mean you're doing an array mesh like in a circular pattern, and now you want the scales bigger on the bottom? So do you want like a tapering kind of thing happening in essence? Because I can make a real fast scale, and I can show you that really quickly too. Let me show these references first for you. Okay, so I'm going to use the draw palette because one thing that I do like is, for me, I like when I'm rotating, I like the images kind of to move with me, and this is why I'm saying there's more than one way, because some artists don't like that. Some artists just want an image flat and sitting there. And if we want to, we can go down this, but this is the one I prefer to use, which is in the draw palette. I like to use the floor grid. I'm going to turn off perspective mode as well right now, just so it's flat or orthographic views is all I'm looking at. Okay. Night Shadow says he likes to open that same tray too. Yeah, I'm a big fan of having the two trays open a lot when I'm doing rendering as well, which I've been doing in some of my streams lately. So I'm going to come down here into this menu here, which is our front, back, up, down, left, right. Okay. But first, I'm going to load a project that's just a Dynamesh sphere, all right? Just so we have just something simple, shape in the middle, okay? And you're going to see some stuff here that is going to be great about the floor grid. I want to highlight this. So I'm going to open up my floor grid. I'm going to do front, back first. So you can see there is actually two maps here. Everything else is grayed out, okay? Because there's nothing there yet. How's it going, Alex? Thanks for tuning in tonight. No, you're fine, Max. I just started. I've only been rambling. That's all I've been doing. Nothing major else than that. So I'm going to click on this map 1, and you can see that's going to open up my texture map. Okay, and this is going to allow me to bring something into ZBrush. So I'm going to import some images, and just like I said, I'm going to use an image from that little 7-inch figure that I know that exists out there. So let me grab that. So I'm going to say front, and then you can see what happens is the gremlin image pops right into place, right? And then it's sitting there. So what I also like about this ability, okay, is again, when I'm rotating my model, those images will rotate like this, okay? I prefer, I don't like so much my images. What's happening, Digital Plankton? Joining me again. Thanks for coming. So I don't like having the images so much in front, right, of my model. I prefer my images behind the model. Now, this is what I'm saying. There is a lot of ways to do this. Like, I know there were some artists, you know, we grew up maybe even putting tracing paper. Like, I know when they're making coins, for an example, they'll have a clay disc, but then they'll have tracing paper. And they're using the tracing paper kind of to match up the drawing of the coin to make sure they're sculpting what is supposed to be in there, right? So those type of artists are people that might use some technique like that, might prefer to have an image in front. Me, I like to have the image behind. So it makes my model transparent, which I like. So I can control my transparencies right here with these two sliders, okay? So I have this factor, which is kind of just, you can see is the model. And a lot of times I'll do this, especially where we're at right now, which is the beginning part of this. I'm just going to try and kick out the gremlin. And today I'm just going to pretty much be focusing on the head. But I'm going to show you my preferred method for blocking out the whole body real fast, because that's also important, what technique to go with there as well. All right. So now that I have this image, okay, I have that transparency to the mesh, and I also have a transparency to the image, right? So I have two controls here for me, okay, which is nice. I like that ability to have that. Hey, Wanaf, Asif. It's always fun for me to try and pronounce the usernames for you guys. Okay, so the other thing that is going to become in handy, I'm going to bring in another image in here, but whatever I'm about to go to now is going to obviously go through the rest of this little feature here. Okay, so you can flip the model. So make them dance, make them dance. I want to dance if I want to. I want to make a new. I can't sing that song for too long because YouTube might kill me. Digital plankton, that's exactly what I'm going to use for this guy. 100%. Right, so you can see the flip is just doing a flipping vertical. Right? And then obviously rotate. Not rocket science. The inverse is, hey, you want to be cool and work in X-ray mode, man? Yeah. So when someone's walking by your desk and they look at your work and they're like, whoa, what's happening there? Huh? I don't know. So that's just an inverse mode. I have found that useful, especially when I'm bringing in images that are kind of black and white, right? So that could be very useful for me as well. So I like that. That becomes handy. The other thing that comes in handy is having this ability to move my image in the scene in a horizontal view, a vertical, okay? Or if you needed it, you could have full, rotation, right? So instead of just doing 90 degrees rotation like this model, like this is doing right here, this is just giving you a nice slider. Okay, the other thing that is really nice, okay, is having the ability to adjust my image. This is pretty important, I would say, to the sense there's going to be times where you guys want to bring in images that might be, you found one image that might have all the views in it. So this is a great way to do that. Or in my case, let's say, hey, I am only looking at wanting to work on his head as an example, right? So I can crop out right in here and then say, okay, and then now, there you go. I've got just the head now, image in there. Okay, so this is going to allow me for crop ability. So you can come back and again, and then you adjust, and you can adjust some more of that same image that you want right there, and then say okay, and then you can go and edit that. And then I can come back and say, you know what, I'm going to re-import that image again. Okay, so let me grab my mouse because it's over on my other monitor, and I can bring back the image as well. Okay, so you've got this view. Okay, obviously I want a left and right, right? So I'm going to click on this and I can import. So you have the ability to click here and do your importing as well. But you can also just come right up into the texture palette itself here. And in essence, you can see when I click on this large icon, you see it's pretty much the exact same thing when I click on the map 1 or the map 2, right? The difference here you're going to be is if I import into this section here, which is our texture palette, you'll see here is like a 3/4 view of this. Okay, so the benefit of this is they're already inside ZBrush, right? So these images are now sitting here inside the application. Okay, and I'm just gonna check something. How's the audio? Because it seems to be spiking quite a bit tonight. I don't know why. More than usual. My voice has gotten even deeper. All right, so what that's going to do for me is when I come here to map 1, okay, you can see the image is already here, right? So if you click on map 1 and map 2, the fact that I've already imported the image into ZBrush is here. So I just wanted to show this because you don't have to obviously do this, but I wanted to make sure you guys could understand that. And then now that I've clicked this, right, I've got now both images of him. Okay, so I've got now a front view and this is a 3/4 view, and I couldn't find any like perfectly profile views, so I'm gonna end up just using this 3/4 view. But really I'm gonna just use the front view to block out real fast, and then I'll use that 3/4 view to kind of get some, what the volume is of him, right? So here's something else that I like about this floor grid ability is when you scroll over the mesh, you can see that there's a shooting line, a blue and a red. So those are axes. So obviously blue is your Z coming at you, and then X is your left and right. Just living the dream, left and right, left and right. Okay, what is nice about this is you can see you can use those to kind of line up the images even as well. All right, so let's make this sphere bigger. Okay, let's go a little bit bigger so that way we can get up here. So you can see like the teeth as an example where that mouth is. You can use those lines to see how well is everything lined up. The other thing that's going to come in handy, what I like about this, is I'm going to come down here to my modifiers, and I'm going to up this frame opacity, okay? And you can see by me also using this technique, what I like about it is I can actually use the floor grid itself as a way to kind of line up the images. Like, these are pretty close. They're not perfect, but they're pretty close. But you got to remember, this is a 3/4, so, right, there's a little camera distortion, little difference than the front view, right? So you got to be careful if they're not, for what I have, I'm not married to those images, as I like to say. But I can come here and say, you know what, I want to adjust the size of this a little bit, right? And looking at the floor, let's just say, as an example, I'm using the feet, right? So you can see there's the top of his nails, right, along that bottom first line. And now I can use that over here as well to kind of get that sizing a little bit better. And then obviously I can type in a number if I want to. So it looks like I need to be more like something more like that, right? And then that's just helping me line everything up. The more we can quickly line up the things, obviously right now, the better off we are running, right? And then now you just can take something like I have, which is just a sphere, right? And then so me, I would probably size this down. This would kind of start being his chest area, right, in here. And then now you can just start pulling on this. So you can use the move brush, obviously, to start doing this, right? And then smooth it out. Now, blocking out wise, if I was going to be starting with a sphere for this guy in particular, right now I've loaded a model that is using Dynamesh, right? And you can see the resolution is set to 64. Hey Sadi. Hey Saad Farzi. Thanks for coming. Great. How are you doing? Okay. And it's set at 64. I'm going to turn the blur off. So for those that have never used ZBrush that are in this stream, do we have anybody in this stream right now that's never used ZBrush? I'm intrigued to see who we got on a Saturday right now, right? So what the benefit is to this is, as I'm sculpting, right, I can remesh on the fly. And especially here, let me go really distorted, right? You can see how really bad that is right there. So the goal here is creating a feature that I don't have to worry about something like that. And as you can see, I can just sculpt and I don't have to worry about what we call polygons and everything else like that. Okay? So this is just allowing for freedom. Think about it like having a ball of clay in your hand, or Sculptio, or Play-Doh for that matter. And if you start stretching that clay out or plate out, eventually it's going to like rip apart, right? And it's going to come thin. So that's what's happening here, right? As you sculpt, it's ripping it and becoming thin, right? So what we're doing is saying, give me more clay. So that's what this mode's doing. And then now I have more clay, right? So, and if I want to do this, I also want to, for something like this, and again, if I'm going to use a sphere for my block out, for something like this, I would prefer to actually use the snake hook brush, okay? Either snake hook 1 or snake hook 2. Okay, so I'm going to go with snake hook 1 right now, okay? And then this brush is going to allow me to do some really crazy pulling out, right? And you can see it's just making a disaster to the mesh, okay? So then this is where I would switch to Sculptress Pro. So I would turn this on the top, right? That way, as I am pulling on things, we're dynamically tessellating, right? So in essence, I don't even really need to use Dynamesh right now. I just need to just quickly block out the shape that I'm looking for in him, right? And again, this is where the transparency is going to come into play. Do you want that image maybe is a little too strong and you want to see more of the model, or vice versa? Do you want more of that model to come through, right? So you as a user can completely control this. You know, you can throw a color in this, right? So now you can see there's a green. So he's all green right now. Okay, but because I've turned up the transparency, you don't see that green, right? So this is why I like this feature, as I can kind of dial in what I'm looking for and then start, you know, blocking out this, right? And then because I'm in Sculpt, Sculptures Pro mode, it's a very fast way to like pull the legs, pull the arms out, and then I'm just going, right? And then because we got these reference images, I'm going to switch from view to view. So you can see how fast we can start going here, right? It really starts to create a fast way of working. So what I also want you to notice, not know, but also notice, good afternoon, Mr. Sanson. Okay, I'm only looking at the left side because clearly you can see even this image isn't perfectly right, isn't perfect. It's not even perfectly symmetrical. Okay, and in fact, looking at this, I might have wanted to take my time to move this image. You know, now that I look at this, right? So this in the front view, what I mean by that is I probably wanted to move and use his nose kind of as a centering point. So I can dial that in maybe a little bit, 0.025, right? And then kind of just start using his nose as a way for me to dial this in. Like now I'm just semantics. It's all semantics, right? That would have been probably a good idea to do something like that. But because it's not perfect, I'm going to pick a side of an image. And this is so important, okay, is what side to pick, and make sure you remember that and stick to that, okay? So unfortunately, I have no update for the PLUV. I couldn't tell you any information on that right now at this time. So again, for me, if I'm doing a character though, my preferred, especially like this, where I know it's going to be some character that obviously is just either whether you do a quadruped or, even though this is the gremlin, it's still just 2 arms and 2 legs and a head, right? So for me, I would prefer using Z-spheres. Okay, this is what I would prefer to use. All right, and actually looking at this, I prefer using the body as the central point, because the head I'll get, that's fine. I'll figure that out. That's no biggie. And in fact, I'll show you even some techniques that I like to use is this. Okay, so the reason why I like using the Z-sphere is just going to be really easy for me to block out very fast as well. I'll be able to put the fingers on, put his toes on really fast. So this is how I go about this. Number one, I'm going to turn the floor up just so we're looking at the Z-spheres. For me, and again, this is not just like a rule. This is I found this useful. I like to make my draw size 1. And there's a reason for that, and I'll show you once we get there. Okay, number 2 is I always make sure I'm in symmetry mode. So you know that by you'll see 2 red circles, right? Right, and then the gizmo in water equals 1 gremlin, since we have a gizmo inside of ZBrush, right? So I want to do this because I'm going to start doing things with the Z-spheres. I'm going to start moving them around and scaling them up, and I want to be symmetrical, but there's really one big reason for that, and that is I'm going to start coming here towards the top of this, right? And as I start moving closer, you'll see that it becomes 1, right? So that is now sitting along the symmetry Y. So obviously the Y is this way. So we're looking at the top right now. So I have 2 brush sides coming together, and then they're meeting, and I'm making a heart. Oh, heart. Right? And they're becoming 1 right there, down that center line. That's important for me, and this is why I want to keep symmetry on when I'm working with the Z-sphere. So then I can just draw it as Z-sphere, right? And then now I got another part of the body. Let's go ahead and turn my floor grid on. And this is now going to allow me to adjust. Now, here's another reason why, for me, the symmetry part is important for when I'm blocking this out. Okay? And it's when I switch now to my options up here. So I have move, scale, and rotate ability here. Okay? So when you're in gizmo mode, right, you'll get a gizmo. But when I'm in Z-sphere mode, okay, I'm now just moving a Z-sphere, right? So I'm in move mode now, which is not draw, so it allows me to move my Z-sphere. Now, you can see the only thing I know, so even if I move my cursor way over here, right, so you can see it's, so screen right for you guys, so it's right below the head right here right now. You can see that Z-sphere is only still going up and down, and that's important for me, right? So that way I never get off-centered. So I would personally tell you never to come out of symmetry with your Z-spheres until you're ready to come out, right? You want to make sure, you want to make this, the whole point of this is making this as fast as you would want this to be, right? So this would be now the Z-sphere here at the top, and then I can switch to scale and then scale this up or down, right? I would probably also, from this case, add another Z-sphere right here, and then I could scale that. That way I can have a different scale happening. And again, the thing here, just like I said, an imagery, you know, you got to be careful not to marry yourself to it in the sense, oh yes, I'm going to do exactly what's in the image, right? I don't do that. I'm trying to get general because I know I'm making a 3D mesh that I'm going to have all these other features with inside of ZBrush, i.e. like Sculptris Pro. Okay? Then I know there's things down the line I'm going to use. So I'm just going to try and just get a general shape here of his body. I'm going to switch to a side view and I'm going to add this as maybe now for some shoulders. So I'm going to put that in there. Okay, and then now I want to come down, right? So I'm going to add another Z-sphere right here, so just so you're not looking at the image. So you can see I can move, and then right now I'm in move mode. So obviously I go to draw mode, and I'm using the shortcuts. So I'm using the Q, W, E, R, right? So when you scroll over it, you can see Q, W, E, R, right? Right there where he says draw pointer, and it's got the letter Q, and then move W. Those are your shortcuts. Okay, and then now I've got this piece, right? And then now I can adjust that where I want and go back to draw, and I'm going to put a Z-sphere there. I'll go right to kind of the elbow where I'm looking for that. Then, and again, the thing again about this image, right, is in this image, his arms, you know, they're bent. So camera-wise, let me back up here, right? So there's a little bend in his arm. So they're not like they're perfectly straight or anything like that, right? So you got to factor that, and you got to think about this, right? And having that ability to factor in this, okay? So I can do this, and thinking about this, that's maybe, you know, realize that down the line, to get the true length of his arms, you might want to start stretching a little bit. And I see sculpting in phases, right? So this is just the very beginning phase and everything else to come through here. And you can 100%, Mr. Sanson, use this as a rig later on. Yes. So this is another good thing about even using the Z-sphere. You could save this Z-sphere out and reuse it as a rig down the line for posing. 100%. Yes. Bingo bango. I like where your head's at and where you're going, right? So I'm going to go back into draw mode, draw out another Z-sphere. Then I'm just going to click the W key. I'm going to draw that to here. So here I'm going to change my opacity a little bit here so you guys can see more of the Z-sphere and less of him. Oops. All right, less of him. And I'm going to show what I just did there because that's a pretty cool feature of the grid as well. Okay, and then I'm going to come off and say, all right, that's a wrist, right? I need another Z-sphere here. So what you can do is when you're drawing out, if you guys tap the shift key and you hold it down, that'll make the Z-sphere the same size. You didn't spoil any surprise. No worries. It'll make it the same size, right, as the Z-sphere I'm drawing. So you got to look at this as a parent-child relationship, right? So the root is the parent, and then there's Z-spheres rooting off that, right? So then this is now a child. The Z-sphere is a child of that, and so forth and so on. Okay, and so all I'm doing is snapping it to make sure it does that. Okay, I'm going to use this as kind of like a palm for his hand. So I'm going to just position that a little better. And then here's why you would have another view. So obviously I don't have a profile view of him. All I got is this 3/4 view with him right now. So, you know, I'm just using this as a general, making sure I'm getting what I want there. And I'm just looking at where this is sitting in space right now. And then I say, okay, let's make some hands, or some, i.e. some fingers here, right? So then this is where I'll say, okay, I'm going to come in here and say I need, back in draw mode, hitting the Q key, I need a finger there, I need a finger there, let's say. Okay? And then I can switch to scale and scale them up if I want to a little bit, whatever size that I want. And then now I just say, okay, I'm going to click on that, hold the shift key, click on that, hold the shift key. Then I'm going to switch to the W and start drawing out some fingers. Okay, and then now this is where I might turn my floor grid back on and start looking for that first, you know, knuckle in line there. Kind of just generally get that in the same spot that's in my image. Okay, then switch back to draw. I'm going to do it like this, hold the shift key. Then I'm going to go to this one, hold the shift key. Okay, so I got another Z-sphere there, switching the W key, W, and then drawing out another set of finger, right? It's just, so I'm looking at each knuckle point, right, for us, and I'm just putting a Z-sphere at each knuckle. And just like Mr. Sanson mentioned, right, the benefit here is I can use this as a rig down the line, right? And this is going to be very beneficial for me, okay? Magnets, the magnets of the Z-spheres, no, I don't really use that as much. You know, it's been a long time since I've used the magnet feature of a Z-sphere. I use it just in this sense. I'm just trying to block something out real fast, right? And of course, if it was just me working in my office tonight or today, for those depending on your time zone, I'd be going a little bit faster, right? But we're having a discussion tonight or today. Right? And so I'm just going to make the other finger real fast so we're not sitting here having a repetitiveness of everything. Okay? And then again, I can scale things down for that one, and I'll scale that one down, scaling that down a little bit. And I need the next one here, and I need another one there. You know, I got to get that length for that. And in all honesty, for like the things like the nails, I wouldn't even probably use a Z-sphere, but I'm blocking out. I'm trying to get the general feel here of a gremlin, okay? So let's throw some legs on them real quick, because I'm sure you guys are now getting the idea here. Oh, so I love this. This brought up a great thing here for us. So you may have noticed, so let's go backwards here, okay? When I drew this out, right, and then I switched to the move with the W key, right? Here, I'm going to turn off the floor. So you can see that transparency that's happening there is, I don't want that. This is a warning. This is warning danger. This is the Lisa needs braces. Lisa needs braces moment for you all, right? This is pay attention. Pay attention. We're putting that there since we're in the 80s. We're doing Gremlins. That's there for you, the users. I don't know. That got stuck in my head from this one, Legacy, right? And now I can't get it out, and now I've made it a graphical element. Dental plan. Okay, so that is telling you as the user that this might be a problem for you. So you need to make sure you don't see any of that transparent happening. And what's going on there is okay, so you have a Z-sphere, and then this part right here, so you see the white triangle, that's a chain. Right, so you got your Z-sphere, and then that Z-sphere is being connected to another sphere, and then there's a chain of Z-spheres going through there, right? So when a chain starts overlapping another chain, so if I got, like, say this and this is our Z-sphere, and they're coming here and I'm making a V, so just use my arms. So my elbows are like the one Z-sphere, and my fists, my hands are the other Z-spheres. The minute my arms start crossing and doing this, right, you're overlapping, and I don't want that, okay? So for me, I know this is his root right here. I'm actually going to throw down another Z-sphere here, because I just want to have a little more volume in there for me. So we'll throw on the floor grid again. I want some more volume, because his legs are actually, especially in this image, they're not, right? They're to the side, but they're not. They kind of shoot out a little bit, and then they go to shooting out the knee and then down, right? They're not his, if I stood up, right, and you're looking at me, my legs and my hips are right here. His are kind of, if you can use my arm, here, I'll use this one, right? They're more coming off his hips like this, right? They're not coming off a hip like that. Like, this is so hard sometimes with the camera. Coming off like this, right? They're coming off more on an angle like that, right? So I'm I'm adding another Z-sphere there for me so that I can have some wiggle room here. And you can see I can use that. This is my root in here, right? And then now I'll go and get, we can put a little bit of different body movement in there a little bit, right? Having a little archway. You know, I'm sure as all you that are artists have seen like an S ability, right? In a body. So I like to kind of put that in when I'm working on, say, something like this, right? So I'll just give that a little update. Okay. Then I can say he does have a little tail, but I'm not going to do that in the world of the Z-spheres right now. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to size this up a little bit more. And then now this is where maybe I'm going to pull my legs off of, right? And I like to lay down a first Z-sphere of kind of like, this is the joint, the main joint, the attachment. In essence, if you think about our skeleton, and oh yes, I've got even a reference here. Yeah, yes, Andrew Cause, Anatomy Tools. You all should have one of these on your desk, right? So I'm talking about in here, right? So I'm thinking about, first I want to create a little bit more of a pelvic bone. So right where your great trochanter is, but then you have obviously your bone, you know, we got a ball and socket there. So besides just putting one Z-sphere, I like to put another one just to give it a little more volume in the pelvic area. And then that's the one I branch off of. I have found that very useful. And then the mesh that I'm going to get from the Z-spheres here in a second, I find just a cleaner way to work for myself. Okay. So that's why I'm doing this. So, and now I build the legs off of this, right? So I go back into draw mode. There's that. Okay. And again, I'm not going to worry too much about getting exactly, like you can see in here in the arm pin, I'm not exactly like the image. I'm not really concerned about that. Okay. Because I know I'm going to be doing something after this in a second here, right? And then now I just continue going down the line, right? And then obviously this needs to be a lot smaller. And if you want to, you could throw another Z-sphere right here. If you're one of those ADD people like me and you just want more volume in there, right? You can do that. And so you can adjust your whole chain. So if you click on a chain, you can scale a chain up. So right now I'm clicking on this chain right here, right? So I turn on the magnifier, that chain right there, okay? And because I'm doing that, I can do all the chain below. So here, maybe you're like me, and the ADD is kicking in, right? So, and if you want to delete a Z-sphere, you hold the Alt key, and then there you go, I deleted a Z-sphere. I definitely want to move my Z-sphere. And then I'm going to scale it down, I'm going to scale this one down, and then move this into place where I want it, something like this. And then this is why you would have, right, another profile view. Because this is important. Right? If I didn't come to this, it would look like he's going to start falling back, right? And I don't want that. So I need to adjust a little bit of just him in general to make sure it doesn't look like he's falling back at all. And then now I'm going to come here. I'll tap that shift key, okay? And then I'm going to move that forward down that way. And then coming to this view, that should probably come out a little bit more, right? And I'm going to adjust this back one as well a little bit, like that. Just get a little bit more so it feels like he's actually standing, right, on what he should be standing on, his legs, right? Just getting that, right, view and getting that going. Now I want to come off and start doing the feet, okay? To save ourselves a little bit of time here, I'm not going to keep going. I'm going to go kind of a little bit quicker here now and just start moving some things around really fast and just get what I'm looking for here. Okay, so I'm just trying to get the foot here so it looks like he's got a foot. That's important, people. He's got to have a foot. So just some great adjust. This is why I kind of like using the Z-spheres too when I'm mapping something like this out. It's quick movements for me. And if I don't like what's happening, again, like I said, I'll turn off the floor. I hold the Alt key and bingo bango. Now I just have something like this. Now he's looking real good. The thing that's going to be hard for us as an artist, you got to let go, is letting it be perfect, right? I'm not going to do the toes because down the line I would do something else. I would use what someone already said is a VDM brush. So Alvaro, to your question, do I prefer to add joint by joint, or you sometimes put like a full arm and then just joint in the middles? So I like to, for me, especially just like, I don't forget who it was that brought this up, using this as a rig, right? For me, the major points are important for me, right? So 100% when I'm doing this, the first things I worry about is, okay, making sure I got a shoulder joint, elbow joint, something at the wrist. And the biggest mistake is people will make a Z-sphere here and start making the fingers off. You should make another Z-sphere that's your hand, right? Because you got a wrist, you need volume here for your hand. So you should make another Z-sphere for the hand and then build the fingers off. The same thing when I was talking about the hips for him, right? Hips don't lie. Okay, so I'm gonna move on because I want to get into other things here, right? Okay, so now that we got this blocking off, I'm actually not going to make the head. Okay, and there's going to be a reason for this because I want to kind of bring in something else here and bring in some other features here. Okay, so I'm going to do something very different for the head than using a Z-sphere. Now, down the line when I'm going to make this into a rig, I would, since we're in that conversation, I would just be, okay, if this is going to be a rig, I need a joint that's going to, in essence, represent his neck, right? And then I need, obviously, something here that's going to represent his head, right? So then I would be something a little bit more like this, and then scale this down, scale it down more. And again, this is why I stay in symmetry mode, okay? And then because this gremlin, he's got big ears, flop it like me, the doors are open. Hello, the doors are open. Okay, I would 100%, if I was going to turn this into a rig, I would also make sure I put Z-spheres here that represent, in essence, his ears. So I would do something like this, and then this is an example where I would definitely add like a couple more Z-spheres. I'd probably put a Z-sphere here, and then move this down, and then maybe even put another Z-sphere here. And then that way I can kind of just get something down, and I can scale this down. Okay, and now he's looking like a completely different character. Right? But there's a reason why for me, for rig-wise, this is probably going to be a great start for me for a rig. Okay? But modeling-wise, this isn't going to cut it. I don't like this. I don't like that, the way it's going. I think it's great for blocking out my body. Realistically, all I need now for blocking out Z-sphere is this. I don't need his ears, because I'm going to show you a brush that I like to use for his ears. Okay? I love that I can do this. So I'm just reading the question from Digital Plankton. Can you use the Z-spheres as a rig for morph target feature to respond to detailed model in ZBrush? Hold on, let me just kind of wrap that question in and put it in because I'm trying to think. So are you saying, your mindset, are you trying to use the rig then to, when you pose it, make different poses? Or are you more talking about using the rig with a morph target to just sculpturally morph target? Or are you talking more posing morph targets? So Mr. Sanson, this is a great question. He's asking, does size matter when it comes to rigging with an LOL, for those that don't see it? No. The physical size isn't going to matter that much. It's actually going to be more the number of Z-spheres. This is another reason why, to that question that was earlier, which I think was a great question, when I'm going to use this as a rig, more is not actually better, okay, when it comes to the posing part. Because the more Z-spheres you have in there, now if I start adding, right, as an example now, we're going to, here, you know what, let's even do this. Let's go into Z-Sketch, okay? So I'm going to put myself in Z-Sketch mode, all right, and let's go now put some in, so I can start building up some volume in Sketch, right? So in essence, this is an old feature that I don't see many people using anymore, but it could still be very useful to us. Okay, and then let's start building some up here on the shoulder. Maybe it comes down. Okay, that is way too big. So let me go a lot smaller, and then let's make it look like it's kind of got an arm, and then let's throw in some fake tricepping in here. Okay, so I'm just using ZSketch in essence. Let's pull a little bit of clavicle in there. And scapula. All right, let's throw that clavicle and scapula in there. Okay, so I'm just getting some volume now. So I'm literally sketching on top of the Z-sphere, right? And when you're looking at this, this is what I have and the volume that I'm going to, right? And what I'm using for this, right? And then when you start looking at this, and I start switching to rotations, right? And then I start coming in here, and maybe you want to rotate models, and in this case, I can move the sketch around as well, right? So as you start building this volume, right, you got to think about you're going to put a surface over top of it, and when you start to try and move those arms, right, and you want to move them around, okay, I'm going to say now I want to bind, right, the sketch. Okay, and now you can see I'm not in edit sketch mode, but I can see my sketch. So here's why I'm saying for rigging wise. So when I want to go move the arm, I click on the chain, right? And, right? And you can see the way that's moving for us. And then number two, that movement is much more realistic, right? And then now this chain right here to move that. Now the problem is, let me go backwards and get rid of the Z-sketch, because I don't, just so we're back to just the rig again. If you guys go back to this, okay, and you go okay, and you're kicking that ADD's kicking in like me, and you go, oh, this has got to be perfect, right? And as an artist, this is what I'm saying. I keep saying this. I found for me, if I don't try to just be perfect to the image, everything falls into place a lot better for me. Okay. So if you guys are going to sit here and start adding a Z-sphere, okay, and then adding a Z-sphere, and then adding a Z-sphere, okay, that's great and all, because then you want to come in here and you go, okay, I really want to make sure that bicep is looking like a bicep, and like there's some tapering happening, right? In essence, excuse me, I got to sneeze, I think. Hold on. Nope, maybe not. Thought I had to sneeze. I felt it coming. Okay, so here's your problem now. When I want to switch to the rotation, again, the chain's going to be the best way. So if I come up here, right, you can switch that, but then there's all these in here, and it just gets unrealistic, right? Because our arm, like my bone, right, our bones, going back to Andrew Cause's anatomy figure here that he hand sculpted, by the way, right, looking at this, there's obviously a bones, right, coming right to there, and then a bone joint to there. So when I'm doing this, right? That's why, to the question, I'm putting a Z-sphere at the shoulder, I'm putting a Z-sphere at the elbow, the wrist, and the hand. And that's really all I need. Right? I don't need anything. The point of Z-spheres is not trying to sculpt detail. The point of Z-spheres is, boom, let me kick out something really fast here. I've got it, now let me get into sculpting, right? So let me put my arm back on. Okay, now digital plankton, to your question, how did I do the Z sketching part? I just turned it on. That's it. Okay, so it's a menu right here. When you have a Z-sphere selected, you're going to be able to click on Edit Sketch, which you can see the shortcut is Shift A, and then that'll allow you to just start. You know, if I'm in draw mode, might help if clicked on this. Right, and if you click on the draw mode or use the shortcut, now you can start drawing out Z-spheres, and then I can smooth them. And there's different types of smoothing, and then we are smoothing. So this Z-sphere is attaching to this, and this sphere is attaching to that. So it's to try and give a little bit. As you can see, you can kind of use this to block out and muscle out things. And my voice is naturally loud. Yes. Why is I getting too loud? Occasionally my voice, it's just me getting excited. Here, let me make some more adjustments, and let's see how low I can go. I don't want to go too low where I'm just not. Is it at a good level? Because I don't want to. It's tough. My voice is loud and deep, obnoxious. How's that? Is that better? Okay, good. Yeah, I can plan a rigging stream, right? In fact, maybe as I go on, if I get this and I want to do more Gremlin, we'll look at that. Okay, so moving on. So I can say, so here's the thing, right? Let's save this out, because if I decide to do that rigging one, let's have it. So to do that question, I would say save as, And then now I would save this out, and I'm going to call this my Gremlin rig. Okay? And then I always have this. I can always pull this up, reuse it, and I'm good to go. All right? Now, what I want to do is just now hit the A key, which now I just get a mesh. It looks so funny, the head right now. Okay? So all I'm doing is turning on adaptive skin mode. That's what I'm doing right now. And by default, it's going to be in Dynamesh mode and with a density of 2, right? So you can see when I zoom in, it's got some density there. Okay? So I'm going to hit A to come out of that. And for right now, I'm just going to come out of Dynamesh mode. So I'm going to turn that slider all the way down to 0. Okay? And then hit preview. And then now you'll get cleaner, different topology. Okay? Happening here. Okay? Which is great. Fine. Super. And then as you up your density, you can see it just becomes more and more smooth or more dense. Or this slider is actually subdivisions. So I'm adding now, give me 4 subdivision levels on this guy. Okay, that's what I want. Give me 4. Okay, so I'm going to say, yeah, that looks great. I'm super happy with this. I love it. Okay, so now I hit make adaptive skin, and that's going to make a new tool over here. So now I select this, and you can see the menu on the bottom has changed. So I don't have that Z sketching menu. I don't have that Z sphere menu anymore or anything like that. Okay. Dante, to bind this to a high-res mesh, you're going to use a plugin called Subtool Master. Remind me when we get close to the end here, and I'll try to briefly pull it up for you so you can see. Okay? Because I want to get into some sculpting stuff. I'm excited to start sculpting a gremlin, actually. Okay, so I'm going to throw my floor grid back on, right? So the head's ridiculous. Okay? You can see when I turn on polyframe mode, okay, each Z-sphere gets its own polygroup, which is nice. So here, if I turn off the line, you can see the color coding. So every Z-sphere I made is a new polygroup, okay? So that could be beneficial, it could not be beneficial. Some things now you might want to do is, okay, let me do this, and then say, okay, the arms, now I'm going to remake those a new polygroup, right? And then I can just tap on these polygroups and say, okay, yeah, you know what, let me go here, and then this is going to be, in essence, torso. In fact, actually, I don't want to do that because I want to keep this kind of, it's separately. I want to keep that its own polygroup. So in essence, I can take advantage of this, right, and I can just now polygroup off parts that I want to be polygrouped. So this is another benefit for me with the Z-spheres, and since those purples are so close. And then now you have this, right? And we'll say we will make the head and that neck part be 1. Let it be 1. Right? And you can see now I'm just grouping it off by arms and so forth and so on. Right? So I'm just trying to highlight the benefit. What I'm actually doing is I'm going to get rid of my polygrouping. I'm going to say amscray. Okay? And now you remember when I was playing with that density slider? Okay? In geometry, you can see how many subdivision levels the skin has. It has 4. So here's my rig right here. You can see I named it Gremlin Rig. So when I click on this, right, again, this down here in adaptive skin, you see my density is 4. 4! Right? So this is a very important Lisa needs braces moment, people. Lisa, don't make me do it. Don't make me do. Look up here! Look up here! Look at me! Look at me! Look at me! Right? So that density slider, again, is a relationship to when you go make that mesh and click on that make adaptive skin, which I did here, and you say it says skin underscore gremlin rig, right? And I now open geometry, you can see there's a 4. So that's the relationship. So I've already now gotten 4 subdivision levels. So I'm going to turn my lines on. So if I walk down, you can see I can go all the way down to level 1 and then walk all the way up to level 4, right? So I can walk up and down here. Okay, so that becomes pretty nice and pretty handy. Okay, so again, I was talking about I don't want to build the head that way. So let me turn my floor back on. This is not going to cut it for me. This is not how I want to build my head. All right. So what I want to do is actually get rid of the subdivision levels. Okay, so that I just have just what we're looking at here. I'm going to turn off the line for now, just so you can see now the green. which ironically I was playing with green earlier in this poly group. So let's go, let's put him a little more gradient. And let's bring that image forward a little bit more too. So this is again why I like the floor grid. I can kind of even play after the fact. Okay, you can't find adaptive skin. You're only going to see adaptive skin. Okay, this is another one of these. It's another one of the Lisa needs braces moments. You can only see the adaptive skin if you have a Z-sphere selected. You have to have a Z-sphere. This is, see, there's menus that are different for Z-spheres, right? You can see there is adaptive skin, Z-sketch, rigging, topology, and projection. That is only available if you have a Z-sphere. So you got to select a Z-sphere, what I'm hovering over right now. And then me, I would recommend, I don't have it anymore because I've uninstalled my version of ZBrush and reinstalled it 1,400 times on this computer. I like to save out a Z-sphere in my Lightbox, so I always even also have it. I like to put one like right here in my tool, right? And then that way I can double click it and load a Z-sphere anytime I want. You could also put it here in your project, which there is a project with already a Z-sphere. Okay, so I will do that as well. Okay, just as a guide. All right, so back to now sculpting. Right, so I'm gonna go with a little bit bigger brush size. Okay, you can remember when we were playing, we were in Snakehook and we were using Sculptress Pro. I actually want to use that. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the floor grid for now because what I want to do is erase this head. I don't even want the head. Okay, and now I have this head. Now, I like in this stage to combine Dynamesh with some Sculptress Pro too if I want to, right? You can absolutely do that. So I just quickly erase the head. Depending on my brush size is going to be depending on the resolution or number of triangles I'm getting. Okay, so that was a great way to just pop, boom, get rid of that. Okay, and I'm going to use Dynamesh here because there's something that I personally like, workflow that I like to do. I really like to be non-destructive, and in this case, why I didn't put things like his toes on, this is the reason for it that I'm about to show you here. Okay, so if I want to start now blocking a little bit more, okay, to get into this, some of my favorite brushes, since you're asking for me, the clay buildup is like a go-to for me. That is number one. Of course, the Dam standard or Damien standard, because it was made by Damien Candelet, is a go-to for me. I like the Snakehook. I really love, one of my all-time favorite brushes is the alternate smooth brush. Okay, we're doing this. Okay, this is Tangentville right now. Tangent! Captain Tangent, the cape's on. Let's do this. This, I think, is a hidden gem that still a lot of people don't know about. But hopefully this is going to open up your eyes for you. Okay, so there's actually multiple smoothing brushes. Now I think we're at 12, if I remember right. Maybe it's 13. I know it's at least 11, but I'm trying to think because in the last couple of versions we've done some stuff. So I'm going to turn off Sculptress Pro, okay, just so I'm just dealing just with sculpting, right? So as you guys are sculpting, I'm starting to block up. This is why I like clay buildup. It's really fast, like a block in, and it's like laying strips of clay down, right? You could even see using that Z-sketch mode was almost like, okay, the Z-spheres like are a rig as far as, you know, like clay modeling. It's armature wire, and then you're laying clay on it, right? So this is nice right here. I see somebody knows. Travis is using smooth subdiv. He loves it, okay? And that's just using the smooth algorithm. Now, when you go to smooth, right? So I'm just going to go a little crazy here. Or like here in the nose, or here now in the cheeks. Okay, so what I want you guys to start paying attention to is you see here, I'm going to switch to a different material for now, just a little bit more shiny. Okay, you see that there's kind of like a circular pattern there now starting to happen, right? And you can see obviously that's related to my brush, right? So this smooth is smoothing, which is great, but think about it in this sense. It's not just smoothing, it's also pushing the surface back. So clay world would be like me taking my thumb and digging into the clay and then pulling off. I'm obviously going to be pulling clay off, right? And it's going to stick to my thumb. So this is like me taking my thumb and like, yeah, digging in it. Like I'm Superman. I'm here to pump you up with ZBrush knowledge. Get down, get to the chopper. Okay, that's a lot of crazy, forget it. Okay, so My hidden gem brush, since you asked, like what brushes I use, I'm telling you this brush is, yes, this is one of the most important brushes for me. Okay, so when you guys are smoothing like this, and if I'm sitting in a area like that, okay, I personally don't use that smoothing brush as much as I use this smoothing brush. Right, and you see it here. I'm in it. Look, I'm in the same area, and I'm like smoothing infinitely amount of times. Boom, 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 boom. And you see, it's not pushing into the surface. So think about it as me if I stood up, right? Think of my hands as the smooth brush. Okay, I'm smoothing and walking, kind of like is the normal smooth. Think of it in that sense. Hands coming at you. Okay, and then think about this brush now smoothing. It's more of I'm doing this. More of like a relax happening, okay? So that's kind of, it's more relaxing the surface, okay? And so this, because it's just, it keeps my silhouette really well, and it's just like softer, smoother. So to call this brush, because as I'm going to be sculpting here, I'm going to doing this non-stop, people. It's now just a habit of mine to do this over and over again. So I'm going to smooth, and then I'm going to let go the keyboard. That's why I'm doing this annoying snap, right? But I'm not taking my pen off a Cintiq. I'm on my Cintiq, so if you have a tablet, same thing, okay? So this is called the Smart Polish, okay? Or if you want the real terminology, by the way, in the brush palette, down at the very bottom, there's a smooth brush modifiers. So here's some fun stuff. You can actually even make your smooth brush be bigger. Okay, so you can see that when I hold the shift key, see it doubled in size, and then when I go back, and then doubled in size. So there are controls here, down here, alternate brush size. So when you hold that shift key, that's your alternate brush size. So I can say I can make it bigger. This is something that people would like to do. Okay, here's your minimum connecting points. So in this case, down here at the bottom, you know, as I'm smoothing down here, you can see the opening of him isn't moving. Okay, so obviously if I did want that to move, I drop this minimum connecting point to 1, and then now when I smooth, you see that border will move. So these are rare gems, I think, that are very beneficial. Right next to it is the polish strength. So that's the brush I just showed you. Okay, in essence, it's a hidden brush, and we did this on purpose because it allows me as an artist to actually bounce back and forth between two smoothing brushes. So I can start with a more aggressive smooth, go to the more relaxing smooth, go back to the aggressive smooth, okay? So that's why we did it this way. It allows us to bounce back and forth without having to go and switch smoothing brushes. And this is a very completely different algorithm, right? So we were like, it makes sense to, I want to work as fast as I can, hands off, hands back on, right? And you see now it's getting aggressive again, and then hands off. See, now it's more of like the relaxing, okay? So again, just so you guys want to take a snapshot, there it is right there. So it's just a smart polish smooth brush. You can't select this brush. It's not anywhere to select. It's internally in the code, okay? And then that slider is the strength of that brush. So that brush itself has its own strength, okay? And that's what that is. All right, and below that are smoothing options. So you see when I scroll over here, there are 8 other smoothing brushes. So you see there's a stronger, like my man, Mr. Joseph Drust, and Joseph I. Drust, okay? He loves stronger. He uses that all the time. I don't, but he loves it, right? And then there's a lot of other ones. There's ones that's polygrouping dependent. Okay, so, and then the other sliders you have down here, this is actually dealing with the Z-Sketch. These 3 down here are dealing with the Z-Sketch, okay? So let's move on. Okay, tangent done. Let's go back to me now, sculpting the gremlin. Okay, I'm going to turn my floor grid on. So now all I have is a body. So now I can switch, you know, and this is where, you know, maybe I start putting a little bit more closer to the image. And again, see, I almost made the mistake. I was over on that other side. Just kind of wrap that. And literally, I just did what I just shared with you guys. I took my hand off the shift key, and it's a habit. Like, I love that brush. That was a great question, so thank you for that question. And hopefully you are all now experimenting with this brush now, because I'm telling you, you're gonna want it. You're gonna want it in your life. Don't be shy about it. Get it in your life. Okay? So, great. I got some body more proportionally the way I want it. Now, I'm going to smooth this down a little bit more in here. Okay, and again, I just let go of the shift key, and you can even see the difference. It starts growing a little bit more. Bada bing, bada boom. Okay? So, turning on polyframe mode, if you remember, okay, I want this mesh. So I'm going to turn off the floor right now. I want it all one polygroup, and there's going to be a reason why I'm going to go down this path, non-destructive. I'm going to use Dynamesh. I'm going to turn off this blur, okay? And right now, I'm in symmetry, but what I like to do is I like to kind of start low in resolution, like down here, and see, okay, is that really enough for me to work with? It is, but I think 128 is probably going to be best. Even that's a little dense, actually. I might go, let's see what 64 looks like. Yeah, that's actually better. I don't want anything too crazy right now because I'm in a blockout phase. I'm just trying to figure him out and block him out, okay? So, Michael, to your question, so you just change the setting to 5 and start with brush holding shift, then let go of the shift to use alternate smooth brush, correct? No, you don't need to change anything. It's built in. You don't change anything. You don't change anything in the sliders. All you do is hold down the shift key, okay? Start smoothing, or just put the pen on your tablet or your Cintiq, and then let go of the shift key. But we're still, if you notice, up in the top corner, my top left, my brush is still the smooth brush. But what it's done is in the background, we've switched it to that smart polish. You don't need to change any of the sliders. The sliders, if you wanted to just try a different smoothing, like you're talking about this weighting thing, no, you don't change this. 5 would be perpendicular smooth. Okay? So, I want to move on to keep going now into the sculpting. So now what I like to do is I'm going to switch to a primitive here. I'm going to switch to my IMM brush. Okay? And I'm going to come to the top and make sure I'm only drawing out 1. This is now going to start representing my head. Okay? And I'm going to turn on the floor grid so I can just start getting a representation of the head. Okay, and I'm going to hit this little center thing, and now it's centered, and I can start kind of getting a little bit more shape. I'm going to turn off symmetry, recenter, and obviously his head's wider and a little bit more tall, a little bit more like that. Okay, now what we have here is Dynamesh mode. Okay, so when I go to do this, click and drag to clear the mask, because I drew out a sphere on top, and then I click like this, you can see everything's now welded together in here, right? I actually don't like that when I'm doing the blockout phase, so I'm going to turn this off so you guys can see the difference. So again, Dynamesh mode, and then I hold down Control key and I just click and drag, clear my mask, and do it again to re-Dynamesh. Now I have welding happening, which is great, right? I don't want that at this stage. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this groups button on in Dynamesh and then re-Dynamesh, and you can see the welding now doesn't happen. Right, so now I have this thing separately. Okay, so it's not actually attached to his body. And now, since you were asking, other brushes I like to use is this. So now I start to block in the head a little bit more. So we throw on that floor grid and start blocking in the head maybe a little bit more, get a little bit more of his volume in here. And I've actually switched brushes, and the brush now that I am using is the Move Topological. So I have now shells, right? I've got a head, okay, in here, and then I got a body, right? And I'm just trying to get a general size here right now. I'm not trying to get super accurate with this right now. I'm just trying to get my proportions down and my shaping down, right? That's all I'm looking to do here. Okay? But because this is separate, right? And you can see by the poly grouping here, I'll throw in a there, that's why they're very different. So with the Move Topological, I can go super large like this, and I can say, you know what, I want to play with this, and you can see I can start changing the shape without doing any masking, right? Or same thing with the arms and the shoulders. Maybe I want to drop the shoulders a little bit more. I can do that and I know it's not going to do anything to this shape. Okay? So your biggest difference to your question is it's being asked, what's the difference between the move brush and the move topological? So this is the big difference. If I switch now to the move brush, right, and we start grabbing, you see I'm grabbing the green as well. I don't know the difference, right? Where the move, again, the move topological, okay, it's now only, now see I'm adjusting just the red sphere part, right? And then I can go adjust just the green part, okay? So what's happening here is because I'm using this feature where I'm grouping, every single polygroup becomes its own shell. So the benefit of this is I drew out like a spherical shape, right? Which is its own shell. It's, in essence, it's another piece of topology or geometry, or it's like a ball of clay that I rolled up and now I'm sticking it on there, right? What's up, 3D art by Javad? So this, right, gives me the ability to work on it separately. Okay, now what is important here is I've activated something, right? So this topology brush, so let me put this now in a sculptural sense. Okay, clay buildup, I love it, right? So I'm going to start, blocking out where his eyes will go, start blocking in his mouth, right? And start doing this kind of stuff in here, right? And I'm going to start putting ears in there. As I'm sculpting, you can see I can sculpt across both. Right? So what is happening with the move that looks too funny. Okay, what's happening with the move topological is we are limiting it. So in the brush palette, okay, there is a setting. And the important thing here, okay, I'm going to do it. And in fact, since she's up, just yes. Okay, Lisa needs braces moment. All right? This, what I'm about to show you, can be used for any brush, period. Okay, so in the brush palette, down in auto masking, there's a button right here called topological, right? So if I switch to the move topological, see that it's on, and if I move now back to the move, it's not on. That is literally the only difference between the move and the move topological. That button's actually on. Okay, so to give you guys an example, and again, why I'm saying this is really important, look up here, look up here, look at me, right, is I now have a different brush selected, which is clay buildup. I can actually click on the brush, say topological, and then now I can sit here and start building this volume out on the red piece, and I know it's not going to touch the green. So whatever polygroup or topology, in essence, this sense, okay, whatever topology I touch first, that is the only topology that ZBrush is going to allow me to start editing, right? Because the body is now one complete different shell. And this is kind of why I didn't add the head in the Z-sphere phase, because I knew I was going to come start doing this, right? And then now you start blocking out a little bit more and start getting that anatomy to start looking a little bit more realistic, right? So I throw these back on, okay? And then start blocking this out. And then this is, again, maybe the transparency. I want more of the model to start showing so I can start seeing what I'm doing here. Start building his ribs up. Oh, this is another great thing that I want to show right now, actually. So you can see I'm trying to sculpt right in here. And sometimes you guys will do that where you rotate. Okay? So if you start using perspective, okay, you have the ability to actually lock this perspective camera. So I will now never accidentally rotate the model. Now I can switch to something like, again, I love the Damien standard brush. Start using that. It's a pretty aggressive right now. Start using that to block in where his rib cage might start to be, right? And you can see I can sculpt like that, and it's not rotating. So if I unlock, right, it'll allow me to rotate. That'll only be active with perspective, though. Okay? So this, if you guys want to, does everyone understand that, or do you need, anybody else need more understanding to that? Because now also you got to think about it. If I want it for my smooth brush now, see the smooth brush doesn't have it on when I hold the shift key. So if I'm holding the shift key and turn it on, now I can smooth the green, and then now I can go really big, and now I'm only smoothing the head part, right? And then that's all I'm smoothing, right? And then smooth the body again, and it's not going to touch the other part. right? Which is great. I love it, okay? But here's something else that I love about the Move Topological. If you guys go to a brush size of 1, obviously I can say he needs a little bit of a neck, so I can move actually shells based on camera plane. So I'm sitting, and this is only for this Move Topological. Okay, and then this is giving me that, right? And then it's only because I'm sitting at draw size 1. And because I'm using this technique, right, which I like to call non-destructive, and it's Dynamesh with the groups option on. It really opens up, all right? For as far as the best material, I think probably the most popular one is Madcap Gray, because it's just subtle and you kind of see it. However, I like to have sometimes some reflectivity, can help me catch things for when I'm going to start now sculpting and doing things. And then the other thing that might be helpful for you is adding another light, right? So sometimes I'll throw in another light here, okay, and I'll even make it a different color. So I'll make it like a warm light, and then this light, see, is right here. But if you tap on the dot, that becomes a rim light. So that light's now like behind the model and on the ground, towards the ground, shining up, right? That's what that light's doing right now, okay? So as I start moving this around, that'll help me as I'm moving it around and do this. Now, this will only work with standard materials. It only will work with these materials down here, okay? Not with these materials up here. Okay, so ears, okay? For me, let's throw this back on. I want to start doing some ears. I want to use the curve snap surface, okay? But instead, I want to kind of draw out a whole surface. So I'm going to use the curve quad fill, and then there's also the curve tri fill. They're both the same. The only difference is one's using triangles and one's using quads, okay? So I'm going to click on this one. And again, because I'm going this way, I'm going to say, okay, the ear does this and comes down and does something like that. Okay, I'm going to say, draw it out. Right, I'm going to say, okay, that's a little too dense. Let's go way less dense. I'm going to say this and just trace the ear. And you can see I'm getting a surface. It looks so funny. But, it's a quick way for me to get that surface. Okay, now here's why I kind of like this a little bit. Okay, as I'm drawing this out, okay, the detailing in the surface is going to be dependent on your draw size, and also you can see there's a thickness to my ears, right? That's also your draw size. So if you didn't, obviously I don't want these ears to be super thick, right? They should be pretty thin. So I don't want this. So I could drop my draw size down a lot and then just tap on the curve and then keep dropping my draw size until I get the thickness that I want, right? I'm going to say something like that. All right. Now, I might have not got the positioning right that I want, okay? So you can see right now my draw size, what it is. It's a kind of small little red, right? It's hard to even see with the icon covering it. So there it is. You can see it now. Right, so it's pretty tiny because I wanted pretty thin ears, okay? But now I don't like the positioning. So when I scroll over the curve, you see the draw size completely changes, right? It becomes this bluish tone, aqua tone, and it's way bigger. The minute you do that, you're now engaged with the curve, okay? You're not engaged in the sense that you're going to be marrying this, but you're going to start messing around with these points. So as you go in here, I can start actually removing these points, right? And so you can see I can even move this thing all around wherever I want, okay? So obviously that's causing a problem for me, the fact that I can move it off the surface. I don't like that. I don't like that I'm moving off the surface. I really just want to shape the ears, shape a little bit more, okay? And then go at this, all right? So I'm going to go, all right. I'm going to go and say, all right, this is great, but what I want to do is, this is my stroke. Okay, so the curve is our stroke to how I'm applying this. So I'm going to go in there's a curve mode. And you can see in the curve menu, curve mode is on, and you can see that there's a bend on. So that bend is saying I'm allowed to bend the curve. If I turn that off, then this curve is just going to work as a unit, which is great. You can kind of reposition the whole ear as a whole, right? If you want to. You can dance if you want to. Okay? To your question, what's the cleanest way to wrapping cloth around something, for example? I'll show you a brush that you might want to play with. Just hold on. Let me get to you. Okay, so in your stroke, okay, you got the curve mode. So now you know what the bend mode. What I'm also going to do is turn on these two, which is our lock of the start and end of this curve, right? So there's obviously a beginning and end to this. So you got a beginning and an end. So now what's nice about this is when I go like start positioning, you can see that I can't pull this apart. So here I'm going to turn off the floor and you guys can even start, like, this is great for, I don't even like flower petals, right? You can really start to just manipulating, making ears that flap over, right? And then doing something like this. You can see what you can really start to do with this. And because this is locked and this is locked, it's not going to pull away from the surface, right? So that's what I'm engaging here with, is I'm not allowing that to pull away from the surface. Okay, which is great. Okay, so again, in the stroke palette, I've turned on the lock, start, and locked end. Okay, and then you've got things like liquefy. So if I want to start making these be a little bit longer, right, I can actually keep changing the size of this ear, because now that's just ridiculous, right? Clearly not that size, right? So the liquefy actually allows me to keep adding more surface. So in essence, it's adding more to the curve, which then in essence, because I'm playing right now with the curve quad fill, and if I turn on polyframe, okay, and turn off the floor, you can see the surface inside, it's all quads for the most part. It's all mostly quads. Okay, the other one, the curve tri-fill, okay, is just, it's going to be triangles. So if I have this selected, you can see it's all triangles inside. Okay, so what's cool about this that you guys can also do is because you're in this curve mode, you can reuse this if you want to. So as an example, let's just say this ear, just for the sake of argument right now, I've got this ear, and then now I want to have a nice evenly distributed little roundness going around. Let's say a tubing go around this, right? So in this stroke palette, I've got the ability to not only adjust these, but there's other settings here. Okay, so there's curve functions. So there's different things you're going to be able to do, and one of the things I can do, which you can see is the 5 is the hotkey. I hit snapshot, and what that did is actually drop the mesh now. So watch this. This enables me to switch to a completely different curve brush. So let's say curve tube, and I can reuse the curves and touch, and now you can see, as I zoom up here, let me hide the mask. I'm using an actually completely different curve brush, and you can see what happens there, right? So I've created like a tubing going around the exact same curve. So the snapshot dropped the original mesh that I drew out, so it becomes part of my model, and then now it keeps the curve, all right? And then now I just grab another brush, any brush. Guys, this could be any brush. I can grab a brush like this. We have brushes that are called IMM curve here. I could grab something like that. I don't know, grab some stitching. I don't know why we'd want it. And now you got crazy stitching going everywhere, right? We can grab, a fence. And now he's got a fence trying to build around. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want. You can grab anything you want here, right? And then just tell it to reuse it. So now this is something else being repeated, right? You can see that? Right, so this is this strap. I can do this strap. I can do these tubes, right? So now there's this tube being repeated everywhere. It's whatever, anything that's curve mode. Okay, and my thickness again is being changed by my draw size when it's red, not when it's blue, right? So see that it's red right now. See, it's red, and when I scroll over the curve, it's blue. So see how big that is if I tap on this, right? And let's go back to the curve tube brush. When I tap on it, see how big it gets, which is ridiculous, right? And then now if I go smaller, it can get different sizes, right? And go tiny. So now see, this is tiny and tiny, so forth and so on. Okay? And so now I got some roundness there as well. Okay. So I'm going to tap on the surface to just get rid of the curve now. It's all gone now. So to delete the curve, I just tap on the surface. I'm going to clear my mask. So if you remember, we right now are in Dynamesh mode, okay? This is 100% Elisa needs braces mode. What time do we have here? Okay, we're an hour and a half in. Okay, so we got 30 minutes left. So this is important. I have groups turned on, okay? Which remember, every single polygroup is going to become its own geometrical shell. So just like we have the body separated from the head, now we've got these ears. However, these ear pieces that I've drawn out have multiple polygroups in them. So what I mean by that is the tube, right, is its own polygroup, okay? And the ears are their own, but the ears have 3 polygroups in them, okay? So if I was now to say, okay, let's just re-Dynamesh, you get this, right? So now this is its own group, and then this, right? You need to be careful when you're going to use this technique I'm sharing with you, that you don't do something like, okay, I'm going to make a Control W, make a new polygroup there, right? Because Dynamesh, one of its rules is watertight, right? So in essence, think about like a cup. You pour water in it, hold it, and then you can drink and pour it out. So there's volume there for the water to be held in. This polygroup, right, has no volume. It's just pretty much there's a flat plane in the front and there's a flat plane in the back. Okay, so when you go to re-Dynamesh this, because I have this groups option on, ZBrush is going to say, oh, I'm trying to make a closed-in surface. So you can see, look at the topology in there. You can see like there's little pieces sitting there on top of each other, right? So you can see this is what it's trying to do. It's trying to take that plane and say, well, it's a plane. You want me to Dynamesh this. Oh, my pen just fell to the ground. You want me to Dynamesh this, right? Well, that's flat. So that's not watertight, people. That's like a piece of paper, right? That's like me saying, okay, go ahead, re-Dynamesh this. It's super thin. You got to start making, like, I got to start folding this and making a volume. Then it can re-Dynamesh, right? So if you're going to use this technique I'm sharing with you, trust me, you should, because I love this technique anyways, and it's so super beneficial for me. You got to think about this. So in my sense, I would want these ears all to be one polygroup, okay? So what I'm going to do, just make myself life really easy, I'm going to re-polygroup them. So I'm just going to select out a portion, and then re-polygroup them, and then re-Dynamesh. And so you see now those ears are just one piece. Okay, and then there you have it. And so, and again, turning on my floor grid, I've got a great start to these ears. Okay, and then now I need to position them because they go way more back in his head, right? So, like, again, this is why I love the physical. I'm lucky enough to have, this to start looking, and I like to do this. I'm looking at the top, so I can see the ears have an angle coming up behind his eyes, actually. So they are to the side. But looking at the top, right, there's an angle there to him, and you can see his eyes are here, right, in the ear. So I need to reposition this. For a second, you thought I was making Baby Yoda. Well, it could be, right? They're relatively got the same types of ears, right? Okay, I'm not in complete control of the curve. What to switch from updating to move when touched with the brush. Stefano, you gotta, as far as the control of the curve, right? So if I draw a tube again, right? Once you draw this out, okay, you have this. So anywhere now that I pull on this, it'll pull. So you can see it, red brush, blue brush, red brush, blue brush. Red brush is draw, blue brush is adjust. So all you do is just click and just keep adjusting, and you can even pull on the curve however you want. Okay, so that's how the adjustments work. Okay, so I'm going to quickly adjust his ears. I'm actually going to switch to the gizmo mode. I'm going to be in symmetry. Okay, I'm going to hold down the control key and tap on the ears. What that's going to do is mask out the model, except for the ears. And then I'm going to say, okay, the ears need to be back here. And I'm going to hold the Alt key and reposition the gizmo so it's sitting right inside. So my rotation I'm about to do is from where his ears would be. So now I want his ears to be more back, right? More back like that. Okay, and then make sure I'm still coming forward enough, right? And start blocking this out a little bit more, right? And you can see now I'm starting to leave the image, which is fine. I'm only was using the image to just get general proportions, right? And then I'm going to reuse the image when I start doing some sculptural details in this. Yes, and then Jiggy Watt is bringing up a great script by Marcus. He made a script that actually you can use Z-spheres and turn it into a curve. It's on ZBrushCentral.com. Okay, now what I also want to do is looking at this. I want to put a little more, so you can see there's kind of like a tube there, right? So I have the tube brush selected, brush, curve, tube, right? But what I'm going to do is click the curve tube snap, and I'm going to draw a tube from there to there, right? And I'm going to go a little bit bigger, something like this, okay? And looking at that, I don't like how faceted, so you can see how faceted it is. So in the brush palette, okay, I'm just going to hit this little R to refresh. There is an ability in my modifiers. Can you see this brush mod? I'm going to say I want this a little more smooth. So I'm going to say, let's go 20 and touch, and then there, you see I got a smoother version. Okay, so this brush mod for these particular two brushes, so there's the two. The brush modifier says how smooth, in essence, how many spans of topology going around the tube, right? So if I change this to something like 4 and then tapped, I would get like a cube, right? And then if I change this to 3, obviously, and then tap on the curve, I get a triangle, right? So see if I rotate, see I get in a triangle now. Okay, so obviously I don't want that, right? I want some smoothness, so in here. Okay, now, the other thing that I want to do is I'm going to position this again. So I'm going to lock the start and end of this as well. So I can kind of just reposition this a little bit. And right now, what is on as well is a snapping ability. So that's telling it to snap to the surface. So if I turn that off, right? See, now it's not snapping to the surface anymore. Because I want something a little bit more like that. Right? And okay. But what I also want is a slight taper happening. Okay? So I'm going to come here again in the stroke. Okay? Because I want to adjust this brush. This brush has a curve mode on it. And down here in the curve modifiers, I'm going to turn on size. And if I tap on the curve, you can see it's tapering. So I need that taper to go the other direction. So in the stroke palette, I click on that curve right below the size and intensity. And then all I'm going to do now is tell it flip. So I'm going to say flip vertically. And so now when I tap, you get a taper like that. And that taper is way too extreme for me. So I'm going to go to stroke. And I'm going to just click on this dot and just move it up more. So that I have, yeah, it's not such a strong taper. Okay? And then this is where something like, okay, I can position it. But this is another way where I think liquefy is going to be beneficial for us. Okay, because I want this to come a little bit more off his ear, right? So then I'm going to say in the stroke palette, in the curve, there's the liquefy menu. So this is going to allow me to, in essence, say, hey, this piece, I want to draw more, right? And you can see I can draw out more, right? And now that I have this, I can even tell it, okay, I have the curve. I tap and hold the shift key, and you can see I can smooth things out. Right? And then with liquefy, I can even retract. Right? So I just added some, and I added too much. And then now I'm just readjusting to what I want. Right? Click on the curve, hold the shift key, and that smooths it out right there for me. And there you go. So now I'm starting to block in a little bit more. Okay? And then now, again, do I want this, turning off the floor, do I want this part to now weld right now with the ear? No. I'm going to go no. I'm going to go right now. I don't want that because I'm still blocking out. I'm still going to start figuring out the head, right? I still haven't started sculpting his face yet. Like, there's no face right now, right? So I'm going to say, no. Let's keep this as a separate polygroup. So at any point in time, you know, again, switching back to the move topological, right? What I'm really trying to show you guys is a whole workflow here of us to start blocking out something, and then we get into the fun, the crazy detailing. Honestly, this is such an important step for me, I think, in the world of sculpting, is being able to make sure you got your proportions right and getting what you want right? So just having a little bit more patience, I think, and making sure you get what you need. You get what you need. Okay, so someone brought up clothing, right? And brought up curving and wrapping along a curve. I'm going to use an inflate on this a little bit. See, I got to stop. Okay? Because we're running out of time, and I want to get to also then showing the clothing part. It is totally starting to look like Baby Yoda, though, too, right? How's it coming from France? What time is it there right now? That's like, time it even isn't in here. So that's like, what, 9:30 at night right now for you? Almost 9:40, almost 10 o'clock at night, I think. Thanks for tuning in. That's great. Okay, so as far as dynameshing just two polygroups together, no. You can't just dynamesh only two polygroups, but there's going to be other things that you could do. You could just separate those two polygroups and make it a new subtool. And then there's also the Boolean feature, I think, is just underly used in the deformers. Okay, but forget that right now. Let me answer that one question that came out, because I think this is great. We're talking about these snap brushes, and they can help come out because, again, in the terms of, I can switch to now the tube and knowing this. And again, remember I told you I didn't draw out the nails, because I know I have a brush like this to draw things out, right? And then now you know I have a tapering ability here, right? So I can do a size and taper this. So I need this vertically flipped and not so tapered. It'll go there, right? And then this, I can move wherever I want, right? And get what I need. Get what you need. And I say, okay, it's a little too aggressive. We'll go a little bit smaller, maybe something like that. And then now, because it's masked out, again, I'm going to tap to delete the curve. And now I'm going to switch to Gizmo, hold the control key, and then now just make another one of the same exact piece and position that where I want it. Okay, I'm just using my Gizmo to get me what I need, right? And the reason why, again, I like this is staying separate to the foot. So when I go to start block in the foot, I'm good to go. Hey, Everson from Brazil. Happy little gremlin, right? There, Bob Ross. Right, but we're digital, man, so let's take advantage of that, right? Why not? I have the ability to do duplicating. I have the ability to move things around. So this is why, just to give you another idea, right? I didn't do the nails because I knew I wanted to show you guys kind of the difference. So here I did in the Z-sphere mode, I actually made the hands. Here I didn't. And then because I'm in groups mode, right? When I go to Dynamesh, those nails will stay in better tact because of their own little geometry shells. Hold on, I need a little drink of water here. So forgive me. Cheers from everyone around the world. We got France, we got Brazil. Someone's here from Japan. That's awesome. Thanks for tuning in. It's 1 in the morning. Where are you at 1 in the morning? Man, that's amazing that you're even sitting here watching my craziness at 1 in the morning. Florida. Italy. The Ukraine. Man, you guys are from all over the place. This is awesome. Yes, so having them as separate groups, right, to that question, this was a great question. This is why I also like this workflow. Okay? Hey, Andres from New York. That was a great question because when you're dynameshing, you're going to keep your resolution really low, right? So if I was to say, let's draw a curve out like this, okay? And then again, now I'm just going to do this duplicating thing again, where I'm just in the gizmo mode, hitting the W key, right? I'm going to reset it by holding the Alt key and do this, and I just copy, right? Right now, this is the same polygroups, right? So I'm going to inverse my mask by holding Control and swapping. So now that new piece that I just duplicated is is masked, and I'm going to control W, and that becomes a new polygroup, right? Okay, so when I go to reDynamesh, you can see they're not going to fuse together. This is kind of why I like this workflow, especially for when I'm blocking things out and I'm trying to get to the point where I want to get to the cool stuff of sculpting him. Okay, it's super scary artwork now. Be art! Right? So that's why I kind of like using this groups option. I like to call this mode for me more like Dyna sketching. It's like me taking a piece of paper and I start sketching things out and I'm hashing them out, but I'm using Dynamesh to do this, and I'm just in a 3D form, right? Oh, you're in Pakistan. Well, thanks for tuning in, man, from Pakistan. That's so incredible, man. I'm honored, guys, that you'd be willing to be up this late or this early to watch me rant and rave here. Okay, so that will do. So now, if we were to do this, right, where they're the same poly group, okay, and then reDynamesh, you can see it all fuses together. Right, that's the difference. Right, so that's why I took the 1 minute to inverse and then hit Control W. That way I know when I reDynamesh, they don't fuse together. So it sets me up for down the line when I'm going to start doing more with him, right? Okay, so this becomes very handy. Now, to that person's question, again, let's get to it. Again, now this is like, I need to make like a semi-tangent, okay, to this. One brush I really like to use for cloth here, I'm just going to, let's do it on a simple shape right now before I throw it on him as an example, okay? And he doesn't wear any cloth. Gremlins are naked. Okay, so I got a cube. Okay, I just made it a poly mesh. Okay, I'm going to switch to curve. And one brush that I love to just start mapping out some cloth for me. Yeah, so someone's commenting about live booleans and Dynamesh. Yes, Dynamesh has the ability. Live booleans is my go-to now for also for printing. Okay, so one brush that I love is this one, the Curve Snap Surface. Okay, so what this is going to allow us to do now, all right, is I can draw out a curve, and then I can draw another curve, and you can see we are lofting, if you want to, the terms that maybe we're all used to as a lofted ability is going like that, and then, okay, so you see this red line that's snapping. You see that? So if I want to make another curve kind of close, I'm not going to be able to. See, it's snapping and then making the curve. I don't want that, right? I want another curve here, but I don't want this happening. This is a feature that's turned on for this brush. And in fact, looking at this, we might need to change this default, I think. Okay? In the stroke palette, again, this is a curve brush, right? So I know I'm in curve mode. Okay, so this brush, you can see curve mode's on. You guys can see bend is on. You all should know what this is telling you now, right? We've been talking about this now for the last 30 minutes, right? And then you've got other two menus. One of the menus that's important to me was this curve modifier menu, right? Which gave us the ability to do the tapering, right? We had the size and then there was a graph. But you see there's 4 sliders below there. Okay, these sliders are important to us. Okay, so remember I've been talking red, blue, red, blue. Take the red pill or the blue pill. The red pill or the blue pill. Right? So you know when I'm in blue, I can edit the curve, right? So you can see I can move this around. Okay, and when I'm red, that's the drawing type, and it's also telling how thick things need to be. Okay? Now, I can change the blue radius, right? Because you can see the blue is different. So if I go real big, like right here, you see how small the red is, and then see how big the blue gets? Because you might want to move the curve kind of more in a bigger chunk, like this. Right? So I'm moving it. It's still got a nice little soft bending. Wow, you're in Australia? Wow. So you are like 18 hours ahead of me, I think, if I remember right. Mumbai? God, you guys are just... Thanks for tuning in. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry and taste salt in the morning because I'm gonna put it all over my pillow tonight. You guys really love me. Okay. All right. So this is controlling that blue radius for the curves, right? So if I make this really tiny, you can see it's right. You see the brush size just changed for the blue, And of course, if I keep going smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, the blue is going to get ridiculously tiny, right? So that's how you can change how much of the curve do you actually want to edit. Like in what part, how much of the curve do you want, right? And then below that is a focal shift for that. But what's really important are these two down here. And more importantly is this curve snap distance, okay? This feature is telling ZBrush, when you're using a curve brush, how close do I need to get to another curve or to a curve to snap my brush to it and then continue drawing. So i.e., right, if I was coming down here, see that red line? See that big red line? I know now I'm actually snapped to the curve because that red line, and my brush size just changed, right? So if I continue drawing, you see that gets longer, right? That gives me that ability, okay? So what I want to do is actually drop this. It's at 60. I'm going to drop it more like into the topological brush. I'm going to drop it down into the 10 range. Okay, Venice, Italy. Well, I'm just in boring LA, California area. You guys are in a cool place. I would love to go to Venice, Italy sometime. You know, I regret in college, I had a time where I could have gone and done a summer study in Italy. And I was like, what the heck? Why did I not do it? And since I just stayed in Ohio and did summer courses in my university in Ohio. What an idiot. Dumb. Costa Rica, beautiful. Been to your country, love it, amazing. Been there. Okay, so back to this. You can see I can get now a lot closer and draw another curve out. So in essence, I'm not now really at the mercy of how close do I need to get. Right now, I'm drawing these curves out, and you see they all stay. So the beauty here is I can grab them, right, individually now. And see, I can readjust them. And if you guys remember, what mode do we also have on in this brush? And it's the bend mode, right? So right now, I'm just grabbing the tops and just readjusting them and letting ZBrush just do whatever I want with the curves, right? But I can grab the bottoms too. But I can also grab internally, and I can pull it out, pull this out, right? Maybe start doing this. And you can see, you can kind of just immediately, start getting wrinkles a little bit. This is kind of why I like this brush. So you see the thickness? It's a little aggressive. So I'm going to go with a smaller red brush size tap, smaller tap, right? And then you can see I am now getting more density and it's smaller. So that means the wrinkling is going to be more intense. Now, what's cool about this, right, as I draw one, it's being pulled away, right? So what I want to do is that handy dandy we already talked about, lock start, lock it in, lock it up, okay? Lock it up right now. Okay, so now that they're locked, I can actually, come down to the bottom here, right? And I'm going to go with a bigger brush size just so, because it's too ridiculous right now. And just so you guys can see, I can start pulling, shaping, changing my curve, right? And start manipulating this differently. And it's like cloth being pulled off this cube, right? So I can just go grab any one of these and start pulling on them, right? And I know it's not going to pull away from the top. In fact, I did for a friend, an architect friend of mine. He was trying to actually do this for some front end desk of a office building. And he asked for my help, and this is what I did for him really quickly, and then I sculpted more wrinkles for him because he just was struggling trying to do it in any of the programs that he uses for architecture, of course. So I was like, yeah, dude, I can kick that out for you really quick. No problem, right? And then now you have this, right? So in essence, I keep dropping curves, right, there, and then I can keep editing those curves. Okay, so as far as the brush closing, no, it's not going to close, but I have ways to close that. Okay, because as I keep drawing these curves, if I now just keep drawing the curves, it's just going to keep continuing around, right? So I just keep drawing. And again, I'm making a surface, right? So I can use Dynamesh to close this, or because this is kind of a little bit different polygon-wise, right? You have this. I can close it after the fact later on as well. But this is not going to close because the way this brush is working, it just keeps looking for curve and 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 curve. Oh, from Denmark. Oh, man. Right? But I'll be able to, because what's happening here is we're creating polygroups. Right? So down the line, I'm going to be able to switch to something like ZModeler, and I'm going to be able to just come through here and, like here, well, let's break the cloth apart from the cube. Just to give you where really quickly something that you could do, right? So I have this, okay? So obviously this is now not curved base, but I can move this around. Here's a great example of move topological again, right? So I can move just one end, right, where I want it, how I want it to be, right? And that's all I'm doing is moving these. And because it's move topological, it's only going to move this part of it, because the only thing it sees is this section of the topology. It doesn't see this unless I tap on this side, then it sees that section of the topology. Okay, so bridging wise, to come through here, the easiest way we'd be doing this for me would be, because it's also relatively low polygon, okay, is I would use this. I would use ZModeler. Okay, and then so this would become its own polygroup for me. Right in here, just so you have a visual understanding of what I'm doing here. Okay, and then I'll give this, the same topology, the same polygroup. Right, so I'm just assigning the polygroups in here, and I can go to polygroup, and I can do like flat island, and just work my way with a couple clicks up this, and then I got the same polygroups. Okay, so what I actually want to do is delete that polygroup, all right? And right now I don't have a lot of, let's say, spans of topology in here, so I'm going to insert multiple edge loops, but I'm not going to change my polygrouping. Okay, and then so I'm going to just add some topology through here. There, that's good. Okay, and then now I'm going to look at just that polygroup, and then delete that polygroup. Okay, so I'm going to come in here, geometry, modify, and then delete hidden. So here, if I turn on the floor, go into display properties, and turn my W on, you can see I just created two holes. Okay, and then now I say, all right, on an edge, right, let's bridge two holes. And then I have different ways of bridging. So I'm going to say bridge from there. And then I want, let's say, this curve, and then bridge. And then I can change the spans also, and then there you go. And then that's its own polygrouping as well. And then see, look, it's all bridged together. And I still have, hold on, I still have topological turned on for my smooth brush. Auto masking, turn that off. Okay, and then you can see, and then this is me using that alternate one, right? It's a great way, kind of, in this case, it's given a nice little just inflation, and you can see it's all connected now. So I'm all good. Now it looks like more like melted, it's melted wax. It's a candle. Oh man, that's awesome. So to your question, these are all, yes, this is recorded, and our streams will go up on our Twitch channel, and they go up on our YouTube. So obviously Twitch deletes videos after so long, like you're saying, Almonte. So our YouTube channel would be the best place to go. Okay? Yes, Ashlan, to your question, ZBrush will work on Windows Home or Windows Pro. And it'll work on Macintosh as well. So I got a Mac computer right here that I use my ZBrush on, and I'm also on a Windows machine right now. So it can be used on both, no problem. Okay, so we're almost running out of time here. So hopefully this guy's, because there's another streamer coming up today, Daniel De Leon. So he's going to be needing this channel to start streaming as well. So I don't want to be going too deep in here. But obviously you can see I didn't get very far with the Gremlin because we were doing a lot of talking. Well, when we say we, me, right, was doing a ton, too much talking, right? But what I'm going to start doing now is blocking off more and then putting details. Now, because I'm making a Gremlin, one thing that I want you guys to be thinking about here is creating the details, right? There's going to be some details where you're going to want the repeating pattern, right? If I pull out my original spike here from the first Gremlins, so if we go with the head, there we go, that's better, right? You can see all the details that Chris put into this. It's just awesome, right? It's so amazing. I just love having this just to also look at how another artist works. It's incredible, right? So what I might want to do is start creating some brushes down the line here, right? So for me, which, if we continue this, and maybe, I might continue this Gremlin and just kick them out. It's another dream of mine, right? What I would start down the line doing is start creating some brushes. So I might, right, something that we can definitely look into for another stream, because unfortunately we are running out of time here, is just to give you guys food for thoughts, right? So people were asking about the brushes. So for me, oh man, I'm going to just reset all my brushes, because I don't know what I've turned on now. I have so many brushes with that option on, and I just accidentally launched Maya somehow. I think I have it on my keyboard. We don't want that. Okay, so as I'm sculpting, right, I like to use the clay buildup really quickly. Maybe I'll just start putting in like some kind of little bump, and I kind of want it a little bit rough, because these scales are kind of rough, and then maybe make another scale next to it, right? And then maybe another scale, and then you're gonna have different heights. I'm not trying to be perfect right now. I'm trying to be at least get me something that's going to give me very quick, very nice little, maybe help me create some kind of pattern here. Let me do this. I'm going to go with a bigger brush size. Do that, and then we'll go a little one here. Just create some kind of really fast pattern. Then I'll hit it with the Damien standard. Kind of just punch those differences, those groovings a little bit more. Just a touch more in there, right? So you can see where I'm going with this, right? I'm going to hold the Alt key and make the ridge be more predominant on the top, right? So that there's a key point here to kind of start giving that approach, right? And again, I'm going fast because we got to end this stream, okay? But what I'm going to start to do eventually is I'm going to start making a lot of these different patterns, okay? And I'm going to want to start making a brush. Well, let me close I accidentally opened it. Okay, and what I want to do is be able to repeat those, okay? So this is where I would start to use one of our newer features, which is our extract, which we can get into more. So I'll say drag rec, extract, drag rec, right? So I hit G for the grab, and I click, and I just make sure my circle is covering my pattern. And when I let go, right, we're going to pick up that surface, and you can see there's my pattern, right? So now at any time, I can draw out that pattern and start messing with that, right, and shaping that where I want. Okay, so your intensity for this brush, maybe you want it stronger, right, like that. So this is the kind of stuff we can get into for another stream and another time, is now starting to take all these details. I'll do my best to try and block out and get to a part where the gremlin looks like a gremlin, so we can start getting to stuff like this, right? Because this is the cool, fun, starting to do some fun stuff, and how would I do all those patterns and everything else like that, okay? Your brushes like the ones ZBrush Guides makes? No, these are shipped, Sculptor. These are shipped with ZBrush. All these brushes are shipped. So what's on ZBrush Guides is not part of us as far as a company, Pixologic. That's just a very talented artist, Pablo Nunez, made his own website that he's calling ZBrush Guides, and all he does is just keep throwing ZBrush content on there all the time. So there you go, right? So that's all that is. So his brushes, he makes specific brushes, okay? But it doesn't have anything to do with us per se, in the sense it's not the same company, right? Those are two different entities, as an example, okay? All right, and then of course we'll get into all this, right? And then we're gonna be start doing stuff like this, where like I can just literally draw out a nose, right? So I'll use stuff like this for undercutting, right? Because see, I can like draw it out an ear. So for me, I might actually make a gremlin ear and make this a brush, right? And then now I'm actually drawing out, ear shapes, right? This is the kind of stuff we're gonna get to. Like I said, unfortunately, I gotta go. There's a stream here coming up from Daniel De Leon. He's going to be here in the next hour. But I appreciate you jumping in to this. So for retopologing, displacement projection tutorials, do I have any to recommend besides flip normals? Not off the top of my head. If you want, do me a favor. You can drop me an email, and when I see your email, if I can think of any, I can give you a link to them. So here is my email. I'm going to put it in the chat. So drop me an email. Say, hey, I was in your stream and I was looking for. Let me think. I'll have to think. I can't right now off the top of my head. I can't think of any. All right. So, but if you drop me an email, maybe in my mind, maybe I'll remember something. Okay. So. That's all I have time for. Everyone, I really appreciate you from around the world, literally. This has been amazing. Australia and Ukraine and everywhere. Have a great rest of the weekend. For those in the evening or those early in the morning, have a great night's sleep. Have a good Sunday. For those in my areas, North America and Central America, where our time zones are a little closer, have a great rest of the evening for Saturday. I really appreciate you all taking your time to come here and be with me on a Saturday afternoon. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys took away a lot. Before I leave, there's any 1 minute, last minute question that you guys might have, go ahead, throw it in the chat. If it's a quick one, I can go with it. But I really appreciate you guys coming in and spending some time away from your families and joining me for an adventure here, trying to do my childhood little dude here, my little gremlin guy. Right, so I appreciate you jumping in on this and looking at how we can start blocking something out. So I would encourage you guys to go back and rewatch this and try think of something like me. It's something that maybe memory for you, and see what you can do for blocking out wise using these techniques I'm talking about. And if you want to, here I'm going to put another thing in here. Would it be great? I would love to see this if you guys did take the challenge here and hey, let me go try blocking out. It doesn't have to be a gremlin, something else. If you can put up on ZBrushCentral.com, you can put an @ my username, which is PixoPaul, okay? And that way you guys, I will get an email and I can go comment. I know somebody has already done that in my last stream. So, and I've already been commenting on them. So, ZBrush Central here, right? This is ZBrush Central. So if you guys are up here, and put that @ PixoPaul, I get an email. So I'll be able to go comment on your actual imagery that you're putting up here. Okay? And the name of the program one is called ZBrush. Okay, and that's what we're in. Because I'm here also, guys, just for everybody, we've got some amazing other streams besides this rest of this weekend. I'm doing a live interview with Todd McFarlane, who is the inventor of Spawn and co-creator of Venom, right? And worked on a lot of Spider-Man comics. And we've got special ZBrush Master streams going on where we got some really talented ZBrush artists doing this, what I'm doing, and then we're with them and hosting this. So Paul Deasy's coming up next. So he's going to be next Tuesday. So jump on ZBrush Central here, okay? And you can go to each one of these. These will also, when you click on them, will go to the actual post here, and then they'll have other links. So, for example, this one, you can click on this link here, and it'll actually take you to, some of you might even be watching on this channel, our ZBrush Live channel. And right here, you guys can get email reminders, right, to remind you by emails. You guys can get iCalendar for the Mac users, and you can also add to your Google Calendar. Okay, and as far as to the person that was asking about ZBrush, so the company is called Pixologic, and right here you can get ZBrush. Okay, so you go here, get ZBrush, you say buy ZBrush, okay, and then there's multiple ways for you to get into ZBrush. So you can either do the subscription services, which is $179.95 for 6 months, or $39.95 month to month, or you can do a perpetual license for $895. We're in our 20th anniversary in the middle of it, and in 20 years we have yet to charge for an upgrade. As far as I know, we're the only software that has done that. Okay, so by all means, Comics Legend, you're in. There you go, Todd McFarlane. There you go. If you have any questions, by all means, you have my email now, and you have my username on ZBrush Central. Okay, this time it's for real. I really gotta go. All right, thank you for tuning in. I can't thank you enough for watching me during your Saturday weekends. Have a great weekend. This is Paul from Pixologic, and I'm out!